Hi everyone, and welcome to our Applying as a Non-School Applicant presentation for today. This is part of your Explore Your Options Week at Macquarie University. So my name's David. I am a Bachelor of Laws student here, and I applied to Macquarie as a non-school applicant. I am originally from Victoria. I went to school in a place called Ballarat, which is a little bit outside of Melbourne, and then I moved to the Big Smoke, Melbourne for my first music degree. I completed that degree, and then I started law at a different university in Melbourne. And then my wife actually got a job up here, so we thought, you know what, let's move up to Sydney, and looked at a few different universities, but I pretty quickly had my heart set on Macquarie because it's got this beautiful open campus that made me feel like I was back at home in the country, but also lots of great practical experiences on campus here that I've really been able to hit the ground running with my law career, which I'll talk about a little bit later on.
And welcome everyone, my name is Dayan. I'm currently studying a Master of Clinical Neuropsychology at Macquarie University. I've just finished the first year of that degree, and what it looks like for me at the moment is studying about the relationship the brain has with different behaviours and thinking skills as humans. And it's come on the back of me studying a Bachelor of Psychology at Macquarie University as well. And the university has really realised my passion in psychology, allowing me to work with patients that have different brain disorders or diseases to try and get them back on their feet and really just improving their quality of life. And it's been awesome because Macquarie University is renowned for its psychology department, which is actually one of the reasons why I came to Macquarie University. And on top of that, we're the only university in New South Wales that offers the resources and training in my specialisation of neuropsychology. So I'm having the best time ever. It's going to be such an awesome journey for me. And David and I are going to share some of the options that are available for students that are coming in as non-school applicants.
So we said this word a few times, what it actually is a non-school applicant. There's a lot of people out there that might tell you it's a mature age student, or it's somebody who's over 21, or it's somebody who finished Year 12 5 years ago. None of these things are strictly correct. A non-school applicant is just somebody who isn't currently studying Year 12. So as you can see on the slide here, if you've never attempted Year 12, or if you completed a Year 12 qualification prior to this year, prior to the start of this year, then you're a non-school applicant. That means that we look at your application essentially in the same way as long as you're not currently in Year 12. There's only really two categories for us: current Year 12 students and non-school applicants.
So now that we've defined what a non-school applicant is, how do we go about applying for that dream degree that we want? And it really couldn't be any easier. So what you do is you jump on the UAC website, which you can see on the screen there with the first dot point. You select up to 5 courses, probably listing your dream degree as number 1. And then if you have already applied, you just wait until an offer which is released on an ongoing basis, with the second round coming out in December. If you haven't applied just yet, you have up until the February the 8th to lodge an application with UAC. But David and I encourage you to try and lodge an application as soon as you can. And the reason for this is because offers are released on an ongoing basis, lodging an early application gives you the best chance of receiving an offer to study what you want at Macquarie University, which then in turn allows you to pick your classes and timetables earlier, but also allows you to start that process of getting recognition for prior learning, which is something that David will be talking about a little bit later on as well.
So once you actually send your application through to us through the UAC, we'll assess it on a couple of different criteria, which you can see up on the screen here. The main two things being previous study and English language proficiency. So that previous study can come from all sorts of different environments. That could be something that's from a Certificate 4 level or higher if it's a TAFE degree or something along those lines. That can be Year 12, obviously, but it can also be study at another university institution as well. And we will give you different selection ranking based on how strong we think each of those study qualifications that you previously have are. But you can also use things like work experience to strengthen your application. You can't apply to us based on work experience alone, but you can certainly give us evidence of how you've studied something within a work environment, and that's given you some sort of equivalency to perhaps something like a Certificate 4. So certainly if you do think that you have some skills that maybe you didn't earn through the traditional means of going to a university, then send us lots of information about that, things like references, CVs with lots of detailed information about what you've done, and we can certainly try and take that into account when we assess your application.
Now, we recognise as a non-school applicant, you may have been out of the game in terms of university or academic teaching for quite some time. That's completely okay if you wanted to come back and study on campus of Macquarie University. But just to make sure that you're feeling supported and making sure that you're starting into something that you can enjoy and have a lot of fun and learn and get the most out of, Macquarie University offers these stepping stone programs under our Diploma, Foundation and Intensive programs. Now, these allow students to come in on campus in smaller classroom settings to ensure that they're feeling supported in the different academic expectations that are required of students in terms of their learning, their writing, their assessments. Just making sure that if you've been out of the game for such a long time, you're feeling good when you do start on campus at university. Now, one of our friends has actually gone through one of these programs. He was in the foundation program, completed a year of that, and then transferred into one of the bachelor's degrees at Macquarie University, and is now hoping to become a teacher through his qualifications. And he absolutely loved the foundation programs. It allowed him that personal one-to-one interactions, and he speaks so highly of it, he actually now speaks on behalf of these programs as well, which is an awesome initiative that he's taken on.
Diane and I also have another friend who started off at Macquarie through the Next Step pathway. Now, he didn't do as well in Year 12 as he'd hoped, but he didn't have any sort of other experiences that he could rely on to get into university. So he decided he's originally from Newcastle, decided to come down and start off part-time so that he could still commute between Newcastle and here and get a taste for university. Now, as part of the Next Step pathway, you are sitting inside a current first year degree, so you'll sit with students who are studying those same courses as you towards their full degrees, but you just start off as a part-time student with a few extra support services there to help you hit the ground running. Our friend who started off in that program actually did really well in that first semester as a part-time student, and he was actually lucky enough to get selected to move on to full-time study a little bit earlier than the usual 1 year of Next Step, but that's certainly the usual program there.
And what else can Macquarie University offer you? There are several different entry options there for students based on their personal circumstances. So, for example, if you affiliate with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community, there is a pathway into Macquarie University for those individuals. Or, if coming in on campus is a little bit too difficult, there is a pathway through Open Universities Australia where a lot of the learning is facilitated through online means. As well as that, you have the opportunity for internal transfer, which means that you can start off in one degree at Macquarie University, but if you feel as though it wasn't what you expected, or if you wanted to take on something else, you have the flexibility to come out of that original degree and then go and transfer into the second degree that you wanted to. Now, one of our friends has actually done this. They started in the Bachelor of Arts at Macquarie University, and they really noticed that they loved the law side of things and a lot of their learning that they did. And so what they did was they applied for an internal transfer into the Bachelor of Laws. They met the requirements that were required of them to be able to meet that transfer, and they're now having the best time ever. To be able to understand some of the options that are there for you, what you can do is jump online, go to our MQ Entry Navigator, filter it by the dream course that you want, whatever you're passionate about, and then Macquarie will just filter out all the different entry options that are there for you.
So as I said, I'm originally a Victorian. I firstly studied a Bachelor of Music before I moved on to law, and so when I was coming to Macquarie, I had actually started my law degree. I'd done a couple of subjects online through university down in Melbourne, and so I did what some people might call a transfer to Macquarie. Now, there's no special process for applying to transfer. You simply go to the UAC and fill out the usual application form. There's no particular transfer button or anything like that. Put your dream Macquarie course down as your first preference, and then if you're lucky enough to receive an offer, then when you do accept that offer and start enrolling in subjects at Macquarie, please make sure that you withdraw from your other university, because there's nothing there's nothing worse than finding out that you're still enrolled at another university and it's past the census date and now you have to pay a couple of grand in extra fees. So for me, that meant going back after I'd accepted my offer from Macquarie, going back to my other institution and saying, hey, I'm not going to be studying with you guys anymore.
Now, Macquarie University is an awesome space to be in. David and I have absolutely loved our degrees and all of the opportunities that Macquarie University has offered us, but we also understand the university can sometimes be a little bit tough. And you want to make sure that you're feeling supported as you're going through those times. Macquarie University is so proud of its support services that it offers, and one of which is the Mentors program. Now, every single university student that starts in their first year receives a mentor for 6 months that's either in the same degree or same faculty as them, and that has already gone through a year of university as well. Now, this mentor is in charge of ensuring that the new student, knows how to get there, knows how to get around the university, knows exactly when things are due, what dates are required, just ensuring that they feel good about their first 6 months at university. Now, when I had my mentor, she helped me out so much. I couldn't be more grateful to her because I'd never been to Macquarie University before. I loved the program so much and what it did for me that I decided a year later to also volunteer my time as a mentor as well. The second point on there is campus wellbeing. Now, within campus wellbeing are different services that they offer to university students at Macquarie, one of which is counselling services. Now, a student that just needs someone to talk to can approach a counsellor at university and talk about anything that they want to. Within the campus wellbeing services are also disability services, so for anyone and all disabilities, they can access these services to ensure that, especially during exam and assignment times, they're feeling supported through that process. Student advocacy for students that need some legal help through whatever matter it is that they're going through. Chaplaincy services, for example, for any student that is affiliated to a religious affiliation, making sure that they're feeling safe, comfortable, and just enjoying their time at Macquarie.
We also understand that it can be quite confronting adjusting to university life if you've been away for a few years from study. So perhaps that first essay can be a little bit unusual. It uses very different skills to those that you might have practiced in the workplace or in your life outside of university. So we've got lots of learning skills workshops and things like that run through the Learning Skills Centre, which can help you adjust back into university life and into doing things like referencing correctly. So there's a drop-in centre that's always open at the library for learning skills, so you can go and get some quick one-on-one help if you need it. And they also run lots of workshops, which again are free to go along and attend. In a similar vein is the Numeracy Centre, which is really targeted at those kind of science or maths-based degrees. Great for teachers and also anyone who's doing something like engineering or a science-based degree. And that's again open all the time. It's a drop-in centre where there's a few mentors floating around helping up all of the students that drop in with some of the more difficult problems that they might face. But it's also a great way to meet other students who are studying like degrees and who are facing similar kind of problems with maths or science, so that you can not only make a couple of new friends, but also hear somebody else explain something to you, which is often all you need to just get over that little speed bump. And then finally, there's a service up there that's very near and dear to my heart, the Careers and Employment Service. I've used that one a lot because one of my concerns coming back to uni as a 26-year-old at the time, I'm 29 now, was getting a job. That's obviously one of the main reasons I came back to uni. And so the Careers and Employment Service have three kind of main categories that they run things out of. The first of those is workshops. So I'm coming to the end of my degree now, and about 3 or 4 months ago I went along to a resume rescue workshop, which was really, really helpful for me. I hadn't brushed up my resume in a couple of years since I came back to uni, so it was pretty bad. And I got lots of tips on how to clean that up, but also how to use LinkedIn as a tool to relate back to, because obviously that's really important in the modern workforce. As a law student, I'm also very passionate about networking, and I try and keep in touch with lots of different people. And so the Careers and Employment Service run lots of different networking events for different careers. Last year I went along to a clerkships information evening. Clerkship's a bit of a funny law word, but if anyone is thinking about doing law, that's something you'll definitely come across. But it's essentially like a practicum kind of part of your degree that you might choose to complete during the summer break before your final year. And then finally, the Careers and Employment Service also has a jobs portal online. I was lucky enough to find a job on there as a paralegal 1 day a week about 2 years ago. And that job was actually only advertised on the Macquarie Uni Jobs portal because the employers there had a paralegal from Macquarie previously, and they absolutely loved her. And so they thought, you know what, we're going to look after the Macquarie family. They've been good to us, so we'll be good to them. And I was lucky enough to get that job and keep it for about 2 years while I completed a large part of my degree. Unfortunately, I've recently left that job. I've gone on to perhaps bigger and better things. But the great thing about that is that I actually referred a very dear friend of mine from Macquarie who's now taken that position. So the Macquarie legacy continues there.
Now we understand that a student applying as a non-school applicant comes from various different backgrounds. Maybe they work full-time or they have families. Whatever the circumstance is, Macquarie University is proud to be able to offer all students flexible study. Now what this looks like is that all students can build their own timetable around their circumstances. So a friend of ours actually works in the retail industry and does a lot of afternoon or evening shifts. So for him, what worked best was for him to have all of his classes in the morning and then duck out to work. If you're in the reverse situation where you work full-time and can only really make those late afternoon or evening classes, then you can set your timetable to ensure that that's when you're coming in on campus and really getting all your learning done. So that opportunity to really build your timetable around whatever circumstance you're in. And leading on from that, there are various modes of study as well. So a student can come in as an internal student, which means they're coming in on campus, attending lectures in the theatres or going to classrooms. But if a student cannot or does not have the means to be able to come in on campus, they can go through what's called external study, where they do a large proportion of their study online. And with that online sort of learning, we also have a portal called iLearn, which is where all of the university academics, the conveners, post all of their lecture material, assessments, any information regarding any of the subjects that a student takes part in. And an extension on that iLearn portal is something called Echo 360, where all academics actually record their lectures to ensure that students don't miss out on anything for whatever reason if they couldn't attend or if they can't make it on campus in general. And just that last point on there about the way students can study, they can either choose to do full-time study, which is 4 subjects, a full load as most students do, or if time doesn't permit them or for various circumstances, they can also go through what's called part-time study to just take on less subjects, making sure that they're feeling comfortable about the load that they're taking on during their academic career.
Diane mentioned a little bit earlier in the presentation recognition for prior learning. So when I was applying to Macquarie, I'd actually started a law degree elsewhere, as I mentioned, and I wanted to make sure that I got credit for those units that I'd already completed. So for me, I went through this recognition of prior learning application. That's something that you do after you've accepted an offer and you've enrolled in the course here. And I sent through some details about those subjects that I'd previously done, and that's what's called formal learning. So that's essentially where you've done study at another institution, and you substantiate that by providing a transcript and maybe some information about the subjects that you've previously done. So that's kind of the main category of recognition for prior learning, but you can see on the slide there's also another category which is informal and non-formal learning. So if you have done some learning in your career or in your workplace that you think could perhaps be relevant to the degree that you'd like to get into here, then you can potentially provide us with some information about a course that you may have done that's not necessarily an accredited degree through your career, or you can also give us information about perhaps how the skills that you've developed throughout your career have given you the means to achieve certain learning outcomes for a particular unit or for particular units throughout your degree so that you don't need to complete them as academic study. This is something that does require a significant amount of substantiation, so we want to see lots of information about the work that you've done. Things like references are really helpful for that as well. So, and the other thing about recognition for prior learning is that each application can take up to 3 weeks because they're all individually assessed. So if this is something that you're thinking about, we strongly encourage you to get online to the UAC, put in your first application for the course, and then as soon as you get that offer, accept it and enroll in it, and then submit your application for recognition for prior learning. And then if that doesn't necessarily go the way that you had hoped, then you can still withdraw from the degree before the census date without incurring any fees.
So what's next? If you had any more questions, you're more than welcome to give us a ring on the number that you see on the screen, or jump on our website and chat to one of us through our live chat as well. And you can ask us any questions about course advice, admission programs that the university offers, scholarships, different entry pathways, the recognition for prior learning that David is talking about. Whatever comes to your mind, you're more than welcome to jump online, send us a message, or jump on the phone and give us a ring. Thank you so much for listening. We hope to see you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.